Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is January the 7th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. It's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you. For me, it was, finally back at work. I realized, sorry, I didn't tell you to get the lasagna yesterday. I missed a couple things, I was kind of a little bit off my rocker a little bit, but hey, we're back. We're lucid. We're 100% ready to rock and roll. We're completely coherent. But no, today was back at it. It was super cold. I did not like it. My nose hated it. Like, that chap feeling you get when you're just like taking too much wind damage. Your nose is just too dry, but yet, too filled with snot. Like, that's what I'm going through right now. So not loving that. Trying to literally lotion up my nose. But work went well. It was super dead. Like I had too much downtime, but pretty much the job was just staying warm. It got so dead that they literally forgot I was even there, and they like sent down a replacement. And that was a little weird, but it was kind of nice because I got to see one of my work moms, so that was cool to kind of catch up with her. I hadn't seen her since, gosh, probably like maybe like 2 weeks ago. I don't know. It had been a while. So, that was a nice little quick encounter. But overall, it was good to be back. I will say, in total, I think in my area, it snowed about 8 inches in total. Um, and then, I spent yesterday, getting enough snow off my car, so hopefully it would be pretty easy to get out today. Overall, it did have a little bit of problems kind of backing out of the little like snow drift that had surrounded me. The parking lot still a little bit rough even tonight, but at least my side streets. But the main streets were fine. It was good, so I was glad I didn't call off, even though I definitely wanted to. Um, so yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good working day. Let's see. Also, another thing I've been not mentioning, snack corner. I've been eating a lot of, well, not a lot, trying not to eat too much, but I've been snacking on these Snyder's sourdough pretzel nugget things. So like, essentially, little pretzels, little pretzel bites almost, but just like, like a Snyder pretzel. You know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you do. So yeah, that's been nice, getting a little nibble here and there on those. Let's see here. Food corner from last night. Let me go ahead and get into that. Pretty classic Mexican beef and rice bowl, white rice, all the usual tortillas, tortilla chips. I had like some remaining green salsa that I put on in the bowl. Along with some red salsa and some other stuff. I had like enough extra that I didn't want to like use it like next week because I have a new thing. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna use these as like extra salsa for my chips. So that was kind of nice. I will say, I didn't mention this again in the previous episode, but I had said how the sushi I got from Kroger was bad. I had gotten like this half and half thing where it was like half California roll and the other half was inari sushi. And the inari was actually pretty good, so I ran that back and finished those off, and then just threw out the rest of the California rolls. They were not good, but nice little fusion action there with my Mexican beef and rice bowl and the inari sushi. So that was a little bit of an add-on there. So there you go. Let's see here, and then one more thing I wanted to mention, kind of from yesterday, little things I've missed. Yesterday was January 6th. And I didn't talk about that shit at all, like zero. Honestly, if I'm being straight up, I don't care as much about it. I mean, obviously, I've talked about it before, over the years since it's happened. But yeah, I mean, we're at the point now where fucking Trump is about to be in office in what, 2 weeks? And I mean, most likely he's going to be waving off all the motherfuckers who are doing any time for that. So it really is, sadly, for better or worse, going to be something behind us, I feel. Not to say that takes away from it. It was still an insurrection. It was still crazy as fuck. Still good that we didn't do that again. But yeah, I did feel like it was worth mentioning. So here we are, mentioning it now. Happy anniversary, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see here. Was there anything else I really wanted to kind of note, catch up on? I don't think so. I think we're good. I think we're all caught up on my Joneses and the things I missed. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's try to get into some news. I will note we did get back into the gym, you know. Actually, get another drink here. This wine. All right. Gym was nice. Still not too packed. I really do feel like we got lucky, and it was really like one day of like, New Year's newcomers, and it's kind of gotten right back to normal after like that day or two. So really happy about that. I don't know. At first, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not getting as sweaty as I normally do. But then I felt like I got into my stride and everything. And overall, I hit all my numbers that I wanted to hit. So that was good. But yeah, so there you go. Now we're fully caught up. Let's go ahead and get into it. From Reuters. Earthquake in Tibet kills more than 120, striking near holy Buddhist city. A strong earthquake struck the hills of the Himalayas near one of Tibet's holiest cities on Tuesday, killing at least 126 people and flattening hundreds of houses, Chinese authorities said. The magnitude 6.8 quake epicenter was about 80 kilometers or 50 miles north of Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain. Tremors also shook buildings in neighboring Nepal, Bhutan, and India. The impact was felt across the Shagatsi region of Tibet, home to 800,000 people. The region is administered from the Shaanxi city, the traditional seat of the Panchen Lama, one of the most important figures in Tibetan Buddhism. So yeah, I mean, this was a pretty big earthquake, and then obviously with earthquakes, there usually are aftershocks that kind of take place after, which can be just as deadly and concerning. So I imagine, there's definitely an eye on that right now. But also on top of that, it's just there's a awaken in this situation, like, the aftermath, if you will. Adding to the misery for those left homeless, temperatures in the region had fallen to minus 6 degrees Celsius, or 21 degrees Fahrenheit, late on Tuesday, and were forecast to drop as low as minus 16 degrees Celsius, or 3 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. So that's obviously an added, issue. Like I said, I mean, this is a thing that just, hits, I guess, like 3 countries, multiple, towns and villages are definitely affected by this. So, I definitely wanted to go ahead and, at least, draw attention to it. And if there's any more updates out of Tibet, out of this region, we'll definitely be back to cover it. Let me see here. I guess I'll read this one little quick bit and then we'll move along. At least 126 people were known to have been killed and 188 injured on the Tibetan side. China state-run Xinhua News Agency reported. There were no reports of death elsewhere. And then also, in terms of Mount Everest, they had closed it down, but it looks like there was only one remaining hiker. I believe a German hiker. Yeah, a German climber was the lone mountaineer with a permit to climb Mount Everest, but he had already left the base camp after failing to reach the summit. Tourism Department official Lithar Al-Awashti said. So yeah, that was another important bit there that I wanted to mention before I move along. Let me go ahead and blow my nose real quick. Mea culpa. Ugh, I really hope I am not getting sick. But you never know, especially with the season. All right, from ABC News. First bird flu death in the U.S. reported in Louisiana. So this is actually a bit of an update and also a bit of a correction because I think, over time, because I initially covered this, and then I think I got my wires crossed when I mentioned it again later on. We were kind of like wrapping up. I think we were just talking about listeria, and I was saying like, yeah, like what did the most damage? What do you think? Like, what was like, the most deadly? The worst one. We had settled on listeria because I was right, that did get the most, deaths. But, I think a big concern is bird flu. More people are thinking and worrying about bird flu because it's giving pandemic. You know what I mean? And we had actually talked about the elderly person who had contracted bird flu, and it looks like that is the person who wound up passing away. The first person has died from bird flu in the United States. The Louisiana Department of Health confirmed on Monday. The patient, who was exposed to non-commercial backyard flock and wild birds, was over the age of 65 and had underlying medical conditions. Last month, the CDC confirmed, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, I don't know, I felt the need to say it all there, confirmed the patient was experiencing the first case of severe bird flu in the U.S. At the time, a spokesperson for the Louisiana Department of Health told ABC News the patient was experiencing severe respiratory illness related to bird flu infection and was in critical condition. The patient remains the only human case of bird flu confirmed in Louisiana. The U.S. has seen an increase in cases of bird flu or avian influenza since April, when the first human case was reported. So even so, this doesn't really change the situation. The risk assessment is still the same by the agency, which it was a CDC. I don't know why I was burping. But it's just important to note that, like, this is the, like, first, real death. Like, this person contracted it, most likely from, either, something from his flock or a wild bird that came in and infected the flock, what have you, or infected him. And, this is the first, death. So definitely unfortunate. But, you have a situation where this is a person who is close to wildlife that can contract this, and then also is very old. I mean, it shouldn't be like brutal there, but, is elderly, and, it can make sense, adds up that it's like, oh, his body just wasn't able to fight this off at all. So, obviously very unfortunate, very concerning, definitely something that, we're going to keep an eye on in 2025, I'm sure. But, definitely not something I would say like, oh, it's time to freak out, time to panic. This is it. It's COVID, it's COVID 2.0. Like, I don't think we're there. At least we're not there yet. Let me knock on some wood. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's definitely possible. You know what I mean? It is not outside the realm and reason that this might be the new contender, because I mean, bird flu's been around for a very, very, very fucking long time, right? And we've been tracking it, and it hasn't gotten out of bounds, out of realm, but, at least not in America. But, I mean, it's definitely hitting us up. So it's definitely happening. It's definitely a thing. So let's see here. I guess we can go ahead and just run through the symptoms in a little bit. Signs and symptoms of infection in humans often include sore throat, cough, fever, runny or stuffy nose, headache, muscle or body aches, fatigue, and shortness of breath, the CDC says. Less common symptoms include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and seizures. So damn, outside of the seizures for real, this could all be something you can kind of feel like, oh, I have like just a normal flu or normal cold, and the next thing you know, like, oh, it could be something worse. But also in that degree, you might fight it off and be fine, maybe. You know what I mean? Because your body just is able to tend to those things. You don't freak out or go to a doctor or anything, or maybe you do and it just gets treated with normal antibiotics. I don't fucking know. Anyway, I hope that this isn't something that, spirals out of control, that we are looking at a pandemic. I really hope not. I would like 2020 to be a thing in the past. I would like to be one and done with my pandemics as a human being. That's just me. Call me crazy. But, we'll definitely see. As of January 3rd, there have been 66 human cases of bird flu reported in the U.S., according to the CDC data. So, yeah, like I said before earlier, I guess I kind of got this guy confused, and I thought maybe there was just more deaths than what happened, which, like I said, this is the first one. So, and in a way, that's a silver lining, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, once again, listeria definitely won out there, I feel like. It got more bodies. Not by, like, a ton. I don't think a ton of people died of listeria. Don't get me wrong, but still, definitely I feel like the KD is important here. You know what I mean? You gotta, that matters. That's not nothing. Anywho, let's move on. Let's take to the skies. From CBS News. Two people found dead in JetBlue plane landing gear at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. So, damn. Sadly, we got another unfortunate case here. Broward Sheriff's deputies and a medical examiner descended on Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport overnight after bodies were found in an aircraft compartment on a JetBlue Airways plane. JetBlue issued a statement that said two people were found dead in an aircraft's landing gear compartment on Monday night. The bodies were found during a routine inspection after the plane landed. The circumstances surrounding how they accessed the aircraft remain under investigation. This is a heartbreaking situation, and we are committed to working closely with authorities to support their efforts to understand how this occurred, JetBlue said. The carrier said the aircraft most recently operated as Flight 1801 from New York's John F. Kennedy Airport or International Airport. According to CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve, the Airbus A320 departed JFK on Monday night at 8:20 p.m. The night temperatures in New York were frigid. It arrived in Fort Lauderdale a few minutes late at 11:03 p.m. Its cruising altitude was approximately 38,000 feet for the 2-hour and 43-minute flight per Flight Radar 24. Those two details that I mentioned about the altitude, about the temperatures are very important. We've mentioned this before, but in the wheel well of a plane, it is not pressurized, and the temperatures are what they are. Like, so if you have super cold temperatures, they are super cold temperatures. If they're, you're up in this altitude, there's no, like, you're in an unpressurized situation, so you're feeling and enduring all of that. So the chance of mortality is very high. The chance of death is very high. So it's sadly pretty common that people who try to do this stowaway technique oftentimes wind up dying. So it's very unfortunate. You can't stress this enough. Don't do this. Like, whatever kind of thing you're trying to do here in terms of transportation, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the risk. Just to get into more details here. The plane began its day in Kingston, Jamaica, according to the Transportation Security Administration. Then it flew to JFK in New York, then to Salt Lake City, Utah, then back to JFK before ending up in Fort Lauderdale, according to Van Cleve, who said the plane overnighted in Kingston after arriving from JFK on January 5th. Now, there is a protocol for pilots to do a walk around. They said in this case, there's a chance that maybe they looked at maybe a bit in the wheel well, but didn't see anyone or anything suspicious. I'm assuming so, considering that it made all of these rounds, potentially from Kingston, because we're going to get to a little bit of the potential identity of the stowaways. According to the Broward Sheriff Office, the deceased are both male, and beyond that, their identities are unknown. The Jamaica Observer is reporting the two dead are believed to be Jamaican nationals, but CBS News Miami has not independently confirmed that information. So that's not 100% verified that these guys are Jamaican nationals, but that's kind of the most likely thing that we have as of right now in terms of any kind of lead. But if I do hear any updates or anything to the contrary, I will definitely be back with an update. Also, if I maybe hear about how they snuck on, because kind of like in the situation, I believe, with the person in Hawaii, they were able to like kind of figure out like, oh, this person like hung out overnight. They were, able to kind of sneak in, get to the terminal, past the terminal, whatever, yada, yada, yada. They were able to get into the real well. That's how they got there. At least some of the details with that. So yeah, if we get any more details for sure, I will be back to give updates, of course. But speaking of going back, we have to go back. We have to go back to Louisiana. I actually left some news there. So before we hop on the plane, we're not gonna go. We're gonna pay the ticket. We're gonna take the ticket, get the ride, okay? And then we're gonna go back to Louisiana because we got to talk about some corruption in the old bayou. But let's take our last break and we'll close it out. Oh, man. All right. From The Guardian. Louisiana mayor arrested in connection with drug trafficking investigation. Whew. Excuse me. One of the U.S.'s youngest municipal mayors was arrested on Tuesday morning in connection with a drug trafficking investigation by authorities in his home state of Louisiana. The charges against Tyron Truong, who was 23 when he was elected as mayor of the city of Bogalusa, which, if I'm getting that wrong, I'm so sorry, but Bogalusa sounds crazy to me, so I'm going to go with Bogalusa, in 2022, include engaging in transactions involving proceeds from drug offenses and the illicit solicitation of sex work. Truong is among 7 defendants charged in the investigation conducted by Louisiana State Police and the Bogalusa Police Department beginning in April of 2024. So I'm pretty sure, if my fuzzy, joggy memory serves me correct, that we talked about this guy getting investigated. Now, the real ones can run the tape, see if I'm right or wrong there. Maybe this is just in the milieu of news that I have, and I thought I talked about it, and I just completely didn't. But that being said, he is officially arrested. And, granted, we still got to smack some alleged on all this, of course, But it looks like, yeah, they have enough to say, hey, we are pretty confident to try to bring this guy in for, a conviction. According to a statement from state police, investigators allege that Truong and the others collectively used social media platforms to distribute drugs illegally and manage payments for them, further expanding their reach and criminal activity. The investigation also determined that profits from drug sales were used to purchase firearms. The state's police statement continued, some of those guns were then funneled to people who could not legally possess those weapons, and others were linked to violent crimes in the Bogalusa area, the statement added. Truong, now 25, faces counts of transactions involving proceeds from drug offenses, unauthorized use of movable property, and soliciting of prostitutes. Colin Sims, the Louisiana district attorney whose jurisdiction includes Bogalusa, on Tuesday alleged that Truong organized entertainment with a sex worker at a short-term rental home that he rented with public funds as he attended a mayor's conference in Atlanta. 6 others from Bogalusa also are charged with transactions involving drug-related proceeds. They are Mackenzie Lynn Saflau, 24, D. Salim Wally Pittman, 24, Dyrul S. Pittman, 22, Sahel D. I'm totally butchering these names. Deanne Malik Pittman, 26, Tanya Renee Stage, 51, and Devin Michael Williams, 28. Dasim Salim Pittman is accused of distributing illegal drugs, and that defendant Saflau, we're going to go with that now, Stage and Williams are accused of plotting to do so. State police said that the drugs at the center of the case include opioids, MDMA, sometimes colloquially referred to as ecstasy, high-grade marijuana, and THC products. In Louisiana, marijuana is only legal for medicinal use, and some types of THC products have not been legalized. Ooh, spooky. Truong, a Democrat, pulled off what was considered an upset victory when he won the mayor's seat of Bogalusa by defeating the independent incumbent Wendy Perriette. Having graduated from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, with a degree in African American Studies, Truong was the youngest mayor in the city, youngest mayor in the history of the 111-year-old city, which has a population of about 10,000. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big accusation here of corruption. It runs pretty deep. And I mean, it's crazy what this guy was doing, with more or less his power, his platform as a mayor. I mean, you have a lot of influence and stuff like that, and you're essentially using this to kind of form your own little, baby organization here that you can just do crime with. So yeah, definitely fucked up. The drugs, when I initially kind of focused in on those, I was like, I mean, yeah, but it's like, it doesn't matter, period. It doesn't matter what I think about whether the drugs being severe or not severe or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, this is a person, an elected official who is supposed to be elected to uphold the law, is doing everything but in this situation. And not to mention, the stuff he is doing is negatively affecting his constituents. You know what I mean? You got guns flooding the streets, and that shit's fucking affecting people, taking people's lives and shit like that. You got drugs fucking shit up, So, yeah, obviously bad shit all around. I don't know. The more I feel like I'm talking about this, the less I feel like this is actual something I might have covered. So, hey, sorry's all around. It's one of those days where I just realize, hey, we fuck up as we go. We live and we grow. But yeah, it's definitely a bummer that you see a young up and coming politician. And I don't know about you. Maybe I am dumb in this kind of way where there's always a kernel of me that when I do see these politicians who are young and up and coming, and especially if they are, they come off as liberal, progressive, whatever, I want to have faith in them that, like, oh, this is the future, this is a new generation, da 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 da. And then they just turned out to just usually be someone who's not going to do anything, that's not going to move the needle, or they're that, plus they're corrupt to the fucking gills, and they're doing bad shit, and they're actually having a super negative impact on the people around them. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of one of those things where it's just always bad bait. I don't want to say always, but in a lot of times, in a lot of ways, it can wind up feeling like that. You know what I'm saying? So, whether it's in the, the state sense, the federal sense, this can happen a lot. So, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I am a sucker for a good corruption story, a good scam, what have you. This definitely falls in the former, being a fucking corrupt mayor. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. You know what I mean? And shit, it's 2025. I'm sure we're going to be talking on, good old New York City Eric Adams. No updates today, but definitely I'm interested in that. He's got his hands full. He's doing a perp walk with Luigi Mangione one day. He's got to go back to deal some court shit eventually, right? You know what I mean? Anyway, so many criminals, so little time. But yeah, that's where I'll leave the episode for today. Let's see here. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to YouTube. That's a free way to help out and keep up with me, keep up with the Joneses, the episodes. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. And feel free to do that on Spotify or whatever listening platform you're on right now. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.